Why, hey, we're gonna try this again. See how it goes. Oh, whoa. Howdy, Norm. How's it going? Norm, you're the first one, which is pretty sweet. Yeah. Oh well, we'll try to run with this. I will fight with Patreon and whatnot later. So, oh wait, hey, there it goes. Super sweet. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, rough days suck. Uh, it has been a little not rough. It has been busy here. I feel like if I get all the venting out here, then I won't have to feel the need to do it during the show. So maybe we can get more to the point, which would be kind of cool. Um, yeah, got it. Okay, great. Say something. Good. Sorry, I'm bouncing around here. Kind of new at this stuff. At least what I'm doing here. For those who want to know, no, I am not having beer on a Monday, even though sometimes I feel like I should. I am having another. It is a very shiny label, so it's hard to see. It's from Athletic Brewing, though. It is one of their all they do is the non-alcoholic beers, and they're actually really good. So much so that I've been thinking of bringing back like a version. I remember it was like a year or so ago, maybe a little bit longer. I was doing like the Friday like craft beer or craft cider reviews, and that was really cool. That was really fun. But I am trying to be a little more no, trying to have a little less of the alcohol. So I am mixing my tasty adult beverages with non-alcoholic adult beverages. Oh, you can kind of see it. Kind of. Anyway, um, yeah, long gone are the days of like crappy O'Douls. I mean, I'm sure it's still out there, and you could drink that, I guess, if you want, but it's awful. But there are a lot of great NA beers that are really good for just supplementing your beer. I like to have a 1-for-1 ratio. Because I have found out that half the fun that I partake in having like beer and cider is just the camaraderie, and weirdly enough, just the act of doing this is like weirdly part of it for me. So if I supplement it with some NA stuff, it won't be as bad for me, which is pretty cool. Thanks, man. That's pretty cool. Season of the Brew Out is taken off. In fact, we had. I can't say anything. That's the thing is, I mean, it's great or whatever, but some more good news that I probably will not be able to talk about for months and months and months and months. But yeah, thanks, man. It's been a lot of fun. It's been cool. Now we're in what is arguably like the trickier part, and that is getting people to buy issues 2 through 5. It's almost pretty. I want to say it's easy, but it is less challenging to get folks hyped for like an issue 1, and that's just not for my book. Like that's just a thing in comics is you can get people pumped up for issue 1. Some of it is like speculative market. There are people that are kind of banking on the fact that maybe you'll hit it big or whatever, and they can flip that sucker months or years later. Because no one's going to retire on their Death of Superman comics. um, so you get some speculative purchasing, but not a whole lot. Um, but there's it's kind of like movies in that like everyone's kind of fighting nowadays for like the big massive opening weekend, and then you kind of rate how well a movie does fairly or not by like how it does in week 2 and week 3 and does it maintain and stuff. Comics is kind of the same way, and as a rule like the drop from issue 1 to 2 is pretty significant. If you can like do the same numbers or only have like a moderate percentage drop, then you're pretty golden. That's pretty good. So that's why I always like to remind people. So like if you enjoyed issue 1 of Season of the Bruja, make sure your store or whoever you got it from like orders issues 2 through 5 for you, because stores are real hesitant to base subsequent issue orders. This is just behind like annoying ass baseball comics. But like as a rule, like shop owners will be hesitant to order the same numbers for issue 2 and then like subsequent issues, because they kind of know how the game is played too. Like they drop big old drop off. And that's weirdly a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like, well, issue 2 only sold whatever 50% of issue 1, so and then they'll start to adjust their orders with that. Issue 3, they'll cut it more. So it's annoying, but that's really why there's a huge responsibility on the readers, and it's not fair, but there's a huge responsibility on the readers to basically get in there and remind them like, no, I want the rest of the series. Something else, so thanks if you could do that, that's awesome. That way we can keep doing more of these. Also, I'm not wearing this hood to be creepy, although it does look cool. I mean, it's kind of be hard to look like hard and creepy when it's literally a haunted mansion hoodie, but it's a good look. Whatever. Oh, who didn't mute the phone? Me. I have no one to yell at but myself. The heck was I saying? Oh my god. It's not even beer and memory's going. Blah, 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 blah. Issue 2. Got to order. Crap. Norm, remind me what the hell I was saying. God, it so quickly turns into like a Kevin Smith thing. Like I can't remember, and I can't even blame being stoned. What was I saying? Oh well. Comics. This is gonna bug me now. Yeah, just get ready for Aaron's stream of consciousness. It's also weird. Like Twitch is showing me way more viewers, but I wish I could see who it was. It's probably just creepy people just staring like, how's it going? Yeah, no, that's it, Norm. Issues 2 through 5. Make the orders. And like I know sometimes like you want to trade weight, and I get that because it feels like double dipping. First off, Season of the Brewhouse going to get a trade, so don't worry about that. But selling of the single issues does kind of show the publishers that like you've got some staying power. But yeah, the trade is generally where most books tend to make their money back anyway, for multiple reasons. One of which is that individual floppies are they're pretty expensive to produce for the return you get on them. Whereas a trade paperback is just everything about it. I mean, like it might cost more than a single issue, but it does not cost more than like a 5-issue run would be to print. And part of it is it's that thing, like the more pages you have, like the bigger rate your printer gives you. It's not middle of the spine saddle stitch, which is very expensive and time consuming. So they rate that in. This is just perfect binding or whatever, and that's just cheaper to go that way. So yeah, don't worry. There's going to be a trade of it for sure. In fact, we're already doing some stuff for that. That I can say. We're hoping to include some pretty fun back matter. At least that's the plan. But again, I don't want to make any promises or like tell people it's going to happen and then have like my editor be like, "Hey, idiot, you shouldn't promise that stuff." Well, I get to ban people already. Woohoo! Sweet. I don't even know how that happened. Yes, I'm glad that your PP is called a floppy. That's great. So that was fun. That's what I was going to talk about. Shops. Well, first off, Norm, that sucks that your local shop closed down. The past 2 years have not been easy on retail in general, but definitely comics retail. They've been really hard on them. We're super lucky in Portland. That a lot of the shops here pivoted to just home delivery, like Michael Ring or like Katie down at Books of Pictures. Like they went straight to like, we will drive around and drop your books off if you want to get your books. Just pay us online and we'll do it. So that kind of sucks. But about like ordering comics through your shop, a lot of shops do this, and I can understand and I don't understand at the same time. There's a few shops even I know within the Portland metro area that people who lived around them maybe they don't have a local comic book shop, like, but they want to read this because like it sounds interesting to them, or they're a fan and they want to support it, which is all wonderful, but they're not a box customer anywhere. I heard from quite a few potential readers that they would go to what would be their local shop, and the owner said, like, we don't do orders. Like, unless you're a box customer, we're not going to order it for you. We're just going to order however many we think we can sell, and good luck. And I get that to a point, because you can kind of get hosed if you get people starting to do orders like crazy and then they never pick it up. But I kind of feel like that's a missed opportunity. And I know personally, like, if I went to a shop and said, hey, I know, I've heard about this, it sounds cool. Can I put my name down? I'll even pay ahead of time or whatever. Can I put my name down or something for like an order? And the shop owner told me, we don't do that. I don't think I'd ever go back to that shop. Because like, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I guess I guess it does to a point, but I feel like that was a harsh answer that a few potential readers were just told, like, we don't do that. Unless you're a box customer or unless you have a subscription with us, we're not ordering it for you. Like, they're literally saying, basically, go ahead and go online. And like, that person is never going to come back to your shop. But I mean, that's how I feel like, especially when I managed a TIFA, if I told someone, I'm not going to do that for you. Like, why would they come back? I wouldn't come back. And I even reached out to a couple shops being like, hey, this reader said that like you don't do special orders, which seems odd because I've never heard of a comic book shop that doesn't. Do you mean you don't do special orders like at all? Or is it just unless you're a box customer, you don't do any orders? And they said, we will only do it for box customers. And I went, okay, great. I'll tell this person. And then in my head, I'm like, and they're never going to shop at your place again. I'll just keep sending them to Bridge City Comics. So, that all worked out, I guess. But that was a whole rant. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So, that is what it is. But one of the other things I wanted to do on this like nerdy monthly Patreon chat that hopefully I'll get moving every month, like I'll stay on committed or whatnot, is I want to do like Norm mentioned, chat roulette. We're going to do something kind of like that, but not like chat roulette. And part of it is like a challenge to me where like I'm going to pick or with you guys, we're going to pick a random page for the Monster Manual and see if I could build like a quick, like not a campaign, not a full adventure, but like a quick single encounter based on whatever page they give me. And right now it's just like, Norm, you're the only one in the chat. Like I said, this is new. And like every social media makes it really hard to promote this stuff. I also know it's on me. Unless you have a super regular schedule, it's really hard to build a Twitch audience, but whatever. So Norm, I'm going to give you pages and you're going to pick like between one or whatever. So we're going to start 15 all the way up to 309. All right. So Norm, give me a number between 15 or 309. I'm not going to look at it. I mean, I'll look at it once you give me the number. Then I got to wait for the delay. The sweet ass delay. 275. I used to know people that had every page memorized. This is probably back in the 2.5 days or even 3.0. 2.5. That was the Skills and Powers. Second edition D&D that had things like memorized. All right, what'd you say? 275. Better not suck, Norm. Oh, why is the printing so small? By the way, Coyote and Crow, great role-playing game, but seriously, I cannot quit talking about the fact that they use large font. And it makes the book weigh like 15 pounds, but I don't care. It's so wonderful to be able to not do this. Okay. Stalling, 275. What did we get? Oh, we got Slotty. These dudes. Okay. But here, look, we've already hit a snag. So 275, Norm, you're going to have options. So just pick one of these. All right. Red, blue, green, or gray. Just for folks who wonder, Slotties are they are creatures of chaos that live in limbo. Green, sweet. All right, so let me show you what I don't even know if this will get me in trouble with wizards. I don't know. I'm promoting their shit. There it is. Green Slotty. That's the green one. This is all true. All right. Okay, we'll do a quick thing here. All right. They're intelligent, possess innate spellcasting. A green slot can change its shape to appear as a humanoid. If it was born of a humanoid host, ooh, creepy. Okay. At some unpredictable point in its existence, a green slot slots the means to magically, instantly, permanently transform itself into a grit. We don't care about that. All right. So green slot. Let me see what you can do here. Regeneration. It's an aberration. Da, 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 da. Okay, let's see. Oh, okay, let's see. Okay, so here's the thing: it's not inherently an evil creature. It is chaotic neutral because it's from the realm of it's from limbo. Okay, so here's the encounter. All right, with the green slot. I really shouldn't have closed the book because I'm going to have to reference it as I go. All right. So the encounter is this. Your characters are stopping off at like this. It's like a fishing village, but more like a Florida Everglades or swamplands fishing village. So it's not your traditional like coastal or lake fishing village. This is a place that like they catch like frogs and eels and stuff like that as their protein source. That's where they get all their stuff, and like all the houses are raised up. A lot of sugar cane, stuff like that. So yeah, think kind of the swampy area of the South. And you guys are hanging out there, and you keep hearing stories about like you're at the local tavern or whatever, and someone comes in and says, I've just seen him. If it wasn't for the spirit of the swamp, I'd have gotten lost again. I'd have never found my kids. And you ask, what's the the green man of the swamp? And what you find out is that all the kids have this legend of this green man in the swamp, that whenever you get lost in the swamp, this creature, this green man, will always help you find your way home. But like it always comes at a cost. Like you have to promise them like weird stuff. Like you have to promise them your first like your first happy memory, or just really esoteric things, but nothing physical. And what it turns out is that this green slot that's been living in the swamp for how many years never really fully took its transformational form. It always kind of stayed in its weird humanoid form because it didn't understand where it came from. It was lost in the primordial ooze. All it really knew were the humans and the like dwarves and elves and stuff that would randomly go fishing in the swamp, and it kind of took that form, but it knew that it couldn't leave that swamp. It had to stay there. So you go off to find out what it is. Okay, so you get to the swamp, you investigate it, and you find what they call the green guy, the green boy, and you're able to detect that it's actually a green slot, and it's an aberration, and it's actually quite dangerous. So here is your choice. Do you straight up decide to attack this thing, which causes some chaos and havoc, but for the most part has been harmless? Like every once in a while, it'll tip over a boat, but then it ends up saving the people that it tipped over. The worst that it ever does is it causes like minor annoyance to the people that live there, and they kind of start to treat it like a forest spirit. They give it some reverence. You know what it really is, and the danger that one day it could also fully understand what it is. And when that happens, it could go into its full green slot form. It could then change it, evolve into a gray slot, which is way more dangerous. So you have a choice. You can take it on and put an end to it, or you can bargain with it and essentially um, decide to really step up a level and promise it something like 1 year off your life. You don't know when, however long you're going to live. Say however long your character's going to live, you take 1 year off that. And that level of like chaotic energy commitment will be enough to sustain it and to never let it start searching for what it is, which will become its evolution. So that's your choice. And how would that play off in a whatever a level down the way? Like you give it, you promise it 1 year of your life. So how a DM would use that, and we have to tell you ahead of time how the DM will use that is that when the time comes, if the time ever comes for your character to have to make a death save, you will have to make them at disadvantage. Like that's what's going to happen. That's the bargain you make. That's the thing that could be happening because that could be your year. And if you survive it, then that's great. Then you move on. So there it is. That's the quick encounter. This was actually a much more trickier monster than I thought it would be. So yeah, that's it. Do you decide to take it on and actually make the swamp safer? Like it will straight up make the swamp safer, or do you cut a bargain with it and kind of tell the people that it'll still be out there, but it won't be causing as much chaos? So there you go. There's your encounter. Yeah, kind of like that, Norm. A much more cynical swamp thing. And you said bargain. Awesome. That's probably what I do too. Is do a bargain. I've actually become a big fan of whenever possible, if the PCs, if the players want to like bargain their way out of a fight or negotiate their way out of any other way without resorting to actual like draw swords and steel and magic. I'm like a big fan of that. For a while now, I've been listening to the Black Die Society, which I'm sure everyone has heard me talk about ad nauseum on Geek in the City Radio. Part of that, because I back him on Patreon, is that you get to have like DM notes with B. Dave Walters, who runs that game. He's a great dungeon master. He's a great writer. I've really enjoyed following all his work now. I've kind of become a super fan of him. One of the things he talks about, and I used to always kind of play my monsters this way, but he made it much, he was better, he articulated it better than I do, and now I've kind of taken it to heart. And that is, no matter how evil your adversary is, an intelligent creature will act intelligently. And assuming they aren't just a ball of rage that only live for chaos and violence and death and suffering, like potentially even the most like evil and vile of adversaries will kind of still have its own self-preservation and self-interest at heart. And if it can kind of get what it wants within reason without the potential of being hurt or killed, why would not take that? And eventually, it may come to a point that like, no, it's not going to happen. Like we got to throw down. But I like the idea of an intelligent creature, an intelligent monster will act intelligently, and it can be, if not reasoned with, you could strike a bargain. Sometimes that's a devil's bargain, which as a DM, I love that. I try to almost never say no to a PC, to a player. In my head, I may not want that to happen, but I try not to ever say no. I try to phrase it to where I'm always working with the PCs because you're not against them. You're facilitating the story. And honestly, sometimes the worst thing you can do to a player is give them exactly what they want. I know in my own table, when a player tries to like have an outlandish bargain or try to do something that just seems bonkers, nothing scares them more than when I smile and say, okay, tell me how you're going to do it. Because they know I'm already formulating what I'm going to do them when they're successful. And that's when sometimes they think like, oh man, I kind of hope I fail at this and it just turns into a fight, because that's at least predictable. What's he going to do? Yeah. Well, Norm, okay, so you mentioned having played D&D, I'll take the bargain. I'm kind of not good at combat. Well, that's a weird thing. Like, no one's, quote, I mean, okay, I guess there are players that are, quote, good at D&D combat. These are usually players that know the rules back and forth. They can kind of play the game to their advantage, and that's the type of play, and I got no problem with it. It's like a min-max thing. Especially if you really know what your character can do. So it doesn't really so much that you come down to be good at fighting. It's knowing what your character can and can't do, knowing what your other players can do, and being able to work with them. Um, Especially when you get into high level campaigns or you're dealing with the big boss. Like most of the times, if you do that against a big boss, your party's just going to have like the dungeon mopped with them, like in a straight up head on fight. Because a lot of these creatures just do, crazy amount of damage. A lot of them now have like a legendary reaction where they can just choose to make a save no matter what. Like, you know what, I rolled bad, but I'm choosing to make it anyway. And those are limited. So getting good at combat is really more about being good at being a team player, knowing what you can do and knowing the strengths and weaknesses of your party. And then being able to kind of switch on the fly, because as that saying goes, no plan survives first contact with the enemy. And the same thing happens in D&D. Whether you're the dungeon master or the players, it's never ever going to go right. And that's half the fun. Like sometimes the best games come out of when just shit goes off the wall, off the rails. So don't say you're not good at combat. That's not true. What you aren't is super familiar with the rules. And that's different. And that's a teachable moment. And I know when we played a little bit online, it's a little trickier because it's kind of hard, especially when you're doing it through like Zoom or whatever. It's a lot harder to like stop for a moment and say like, well, Norm, look at your sheet. Like, what can you do? It's a little easier in person to do that. Especially because, generally when you meet in person, you talk for a little bit ahead of time and you can ask like, got any questions about your characters, anything about your background, any of your abilities. And that's when you bring up like, can my character do this? Can my character do that? And, that kind of comes in handy that way. So that's not it, Norm. It's not that you're not good at combat. It's that you're not as familiar with the rules. That's not the same as you don't enjoy combat, which is perfectly valid. There are players that live for the scrap, and there are, for the crunch, for the fighting, and then there are players who live for, I don't ever want to roll a dice. I just want to role play my way through everything. And, most people are usually a balance of one or the two, leaning one side or the other, So, yeah, it's not that you're not good at combat, Norm. You just don't know the rules that well, and that's fine. A good DM will help you do that. And, I know where you're at. It's hard to get a game in person, but try to get a game in person. That always helps. Yeah, so that's it for this monthly chat. Maybe if these pick up more, I might do them every other week, really kind of build them up and stuff like that. And, I'll get better at it. It's a good writing challenge for me also to, do these one-off quick one-page encounters with one monster. So we'll keep going with stuff like that. Yes, I have watched all of The Legend of Vox Machina and I love it, which is funny because, and this is, don't take my geek cred away, I can't get into Critical Role. Like, I've tried. And like they really said, like, start with season 3. You don't need to know the previous seasons. I can't, and I don't know why. Like, the players are all great. Obviously, the DM is amazing. And clearly I can watch people play because, like I said, like weekly, I do not ever miss an episode of the Black Dice Society, and that thing clocks in at like 3 hours too. So it's not that I can't enjoy that. It's just something about Critical Role that doesn't click with me, and I can't tell you why. But I love The Legend of Vox Machina. I thought the show was brilliant. It was great. I had so much fun. But yeah, I don't know why I can't get into Critical Hit. It's probably the same reason why, like, I can't get into David Lynch movies. I know they're good. I know he's a brilliant director. I know he's got a distinctive vision and style, and what he does, there's almost no one better. I can't get into him. Like, I think it's just a personal taste thing. I just can't get into it. Yeah, but the show was great. The show was fantastic, and I'm glad that a lot of the people involved in Critical Hit, kind of got to keep that going, and got a better payday out of it, which is always good. So yeah, cool, man. I'm gonna wrap this up for this time. We're at least gonna be Monday. I'm always gonna try to make it like the first Monday of the month. I think initially I said the last Monday of the month. And it turns out by the end of the month, I'm pretty like drained. So the first Monday of the month is the best. If it picks up, maybe we'll go to every other week, stuff like that. Yeah, if you have other suggestions of other books I should pull from when we do the random thing, I am always totally down for that. Um, and look on my Patreon because I'm going to start writing my own adventure book I'm going to pitch it to DM's Guild. So I will start posting kind of my writers and research notes as I work on that. But basically, the adventures, I'm going to write an anthology series. It's going to take place in Ravenloft because I'm a big dork. But I'm going to try to do something a little more humorous with it. And the pitch is basically, what if you mix What We Do in the Shadows with the Rockford Files? So it's going to be weird. With that, thanks, folks, for tuning in. Sorry if you couldn't make it live. That's great. Norm, thanks for popping in, man, and keep telling everybody that we're doing this goofy thing. If not, this will be available on the Patreon in a few days for anyone to check it out. And yeah, I will see everybody on Tuesday for Geek in the City Radio. Thanks, everybody, and talk to you later.